For a decade, there was some weird dinosaur animated film on the back of my mind, so last year I looked into it and realized the film was called Dinotopia: Quest for the Ruby Sunstone. It was made by Hallmark, taking a break from making horrible romance movies. It's based off a series of books I never read or cared to read, and according to many, this animated film is inaccurate to both the novels and television series Hallmark also produced, but we're not going to be focusing on that because who cares. To quickly summarize, this boy with the worst name ever, Kex, hides on a boat and is shipwrecked on an island filled with humans and dinosaurs living together. Then these eggs get stolen by some villains, and Kex along with some new friends must get them back. Now I was actually surprised at how talented the voice cast is. Most of them don't really try here, but whatever. This girl with the unnatural hair color is Mara, voiced by Tara Strong. Not surprised in the slightest because this bitch voices in everything. Michael Clark Douglas shows up as a sexy voiced T-Rex.
Dinosaurs are the most powerful creatures to ever walk the earth.
Elisa Milano plays the weird Chasmosaurus named 26. Kathy Griffin as Roga, she's the weirdo who held up the decapitated head of Donald Trump. Her sidekick is Slud, played by Dwayne Knight, the Seinfeld guy who got eaten by the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park. Finally, the legendary Malcolm McDowell plays the main villain, this twirly mustache evil guy named Ogthar. He seems like the only voice actor who is having fun in this, and makes the film slightly bearable.
All yours, my scaly friends. Or, there's what's behind the door.
There's a choice?
There's always a choice.
Yeah, the film's quality definitely lets you know this is direct-to-DVD. Mid-2000s direct-to-DVD, mind you. Not the worst, but a 5 out of 10 film nonetheless. There are some really weird scenes present, like where they ride across the canyon in an iguanodon's shredded scales. Then there's this cunt, a little baby Dilophosaurus whose voice makes you want to chuck his little ass across the room.
Mama! Feed me!
Alright guys, don't worry, okay? I poked holes in the bag so she can breathe. Let's peep this out.
Despite its downsides, the film was weirdly nostalgic, yet clearly it was the end of this franchise, seeing that a sequel never came out. It definitely hinted at one too, as Ogthar was somehow meant to survive being thrown into a fucking volcano. I'm sure growing up you played a variety of Flash games featured on various kids' websites. I was never too into them besides one based on one of my favorite shows growing up, Scooby-Doo Mr. Incorporated. It's pretty damn obvious that I love this show, as I made 4 full videos on it, but I really touched on the game featured on Cartoon Network's website. Released in 2010, Crystal Cove Online actually corresponds to the release of each episode in the first season. You play as Shaggy and Scooby trying to stop the week's villain, while also following along with the show in other aspects. In the first episode, you visit the professor, travel through the sewers in a maze-like layout, find clues, and have a boss battle. Sometimes there are multiple bosses depending on the episode. You fight them with some random ass weapons like an umbrella, tuna, frying pan, and a kebab, and a bunch of others. There are 26 main missions along with 52 side quests that you get more Scooby Snack currency, or a map piece to find buried treasure. This treasure is usually just more snacks or a costume. There's also a shop where you can buy boosted health, a way to increase speed, and other items. And trust me, you'll need these to beat the later bosses. Starting with episode 21, they get harder to defeat, such as the case with the Manticore, the Headless Horror, the Shadowy Figure, Dead Justice, the Obliteratrix, and the Freak. I remember how hard these were to beat as a kid, man. I even remember how accomplished I felt when I defeated the Obliteratrix for the first time like a decade ago, and playing it again recently for this video is really nostalgic. But obviously it was easy as a 19-year-old. Now once you can finish all of the mysteries and missions, you must complete the 27th mystery. This involves fighting old bosses with locations switched around. The mist in the corner also get bigger and bigger. By the end of it, you fight the Freak of Crystal Cove at Fred's house, and all the disc pieces spell out an anagram for burrito. It was all a dream because Shaggy's a major pothead. There are a few interesting details I wish to point out. One is that George Avocados becomes mayor after Jones Sr. is arrested. I'll mention why in a minute. Another is that Night Fright is colored red for some reason, instead of bluish gray. This might have been the original design for him, or simply an error. Same thing for the one-time character Mr. Dieter. Here he's African American, while in the show he's Caucasian. Finally, there clearly was no Season 2 edition. The game stopped updating after the first season ended in July 2011, which is weird to me. They ended it with George as the mayor instead of Nettles, It would have been interesting to see how this map would have been expanded for the Crybaby Clown episodes, the Midnight Zone, and the finale where they literally go to hell and fight demons. But still, compared to the other Flash games, it's pretty decent. Some problems are there, like how repetitive it feels after long stretches, but it has a lot going for it. The content in the game is good for just a Flash game meant for kids. When I was a kid, before collecting Legos, I was into Imaginext. These were a line of toys released by Fisher-Price in the early 2000s. I remember getting some of the big sets like this weird looking castle, pirate ship, and a space station. My favorites were a line released in 2011 with these armored dinosaurs, and usually with the bigger sets came DVDs to these weird animated shorts, pretty much just about a group of heroes crossing over into each other's worlds. But for some reason, one of these sets came with an extra DVD for another series of Fisher-Price toys. It was called Planet Heroes, and wow is this obscure. If anyone has any memories of this brand, please tell me in the comments below. I never had any of the toys, but I remember watching this episode called Slingshot multiple times. The series is about a group of heroes who each represent a planet. The main character is obviously the one from Earth, a douche named Ace. And because this was made in the mid-2000s, he's got a rad skateboard and can fly in space.
The weather today is a balmy 357 degrees Celsius with chances of scattered asteroid showers, so you better stay inside! Sorry.
All of these guys look very bizarre, like this one alien from Saturn who looks like a mix of Ebony Maw and Lord Voldemort. Another just looks like a pile of shit. And let's not forget about the token girl character that all of these boy cartoons have. She's the only female character in a sea of dudes as you would expect. They all come together in order to stop the evil black hole, who I thought was the coolest design growing up. But nowadays I just see him as a ripoff of Mysterio. You know, the snow globe head and dark evil powers. And he has his own posse of minions who even I can beat up for their lunch money.
Well, mission accomplished.
We buried him good.
The animation here is just bizarre, yet not the worst I've seen. It obviously had a low budget, and the crew probably didn't have a lot to work with. The episode is 27 minutes long and centers around some dark cloud that gets defeated by a block of ice. And they show off the ship because this is a toy commercial. Planet Heroes came back into my mind after almost a decade in spring 2020. I found the Slingshot episode in full on YouTube with no other episodes, so I assume this is the only one ever made, though the rest being cancelled or subbing due to the toy line not being as successful. But it turns out there are more. 2 other episodes were found between 2020 and 2021. The first was called Here Comes the Sun, where we are introduced to that character, this beefcake. Black Hole makes a shrink ray to stop the heroes, but is stopped by Ace and some surfer dude named Shooter. He talks like this.
Whoa, solar wind? That means awesome solar surfing!
Whoa, totally radical, dude. Let's hit this now and go back to the surf shack for some Doritos and watch the latest episode of Lab Rats. Radical. The other episode is called The Ace That Jumped Over the Moon, where another character is introduced. This unholy abomination named Lunar who has a robot cow. What's weird is that Wikipedia lists another episode called Ace in Space. It apparently takes place before the other episodes, but what's odd is that Slingshot is not listed here. So is Ace in Space just another name for it, or could this be a piece of lost media? The whole series is the most obscure thing in this entire video. Just a small section on a Wikipedia article and a few scattered YouTube comments, but the toys themselves are decently cataloged. You can even find pictures and full reviews pretty easily.
Planet heroes, one from every planet. Ace from Earth, Eager from Mars, Gustus from Jupiter. Can they stop black hole in time? The Planet Heroes figures each sold separately.
FireBreather, a film that currently exists as a fever dream some have had, but it was real and is surprisingly good. Released on November 24, 2010, this aired during the golden age of Cartoon Network. I mean, it literally came out the same year as Adventure Time, Mad, Regular Show, Turtle Drama World Tour, and so on. But most seem to forget about it as FireBreather was mainly a singular movie. It could have been continued as a TV show or have a sequel, but it never did. The film was actually based off a series of comics from the mid-2000s about a boy who is part human, part dragon. Some changes were made for this, mainly that instead of being part dragon, Duncan is part kaiju. He tries to live a normal life as a 16-year-old high school student, but things get crazy. It seems stereotypical with the jocks picking on him and embarrassing himself in front of his crush, but I didn't mind that one bit.
Your prank could have ended in serious injury.
No, it did! My eyebrows were totally burned off!
Troy, no offense, but I've had you in here so many times, your name should be on that chair on a brass plaque.
The story felt way more mature than the usual for Cartoon Network, clearly being aimed for tweens or a teen audience. Duncan deals with some heavy stuff, and they make many of these characters layered and three-dimensional. Jenna, who's the usual snobby rich girl, actually has some depth and grows to care for Duncan, but they never really did anything with Isabel and Kenny, as the storyline sort of ended with a cliffhanger type situation. Some of these voice actors sounded familiar, but it's because FireBreather features the likes of Gary Anthony Williams, Josh Keaton, Kevin Michael Richardson, Gray Delisle, and Dante Bosco, the latter of which I was stupid for not recognizing because this guy sounds exactly like Zuko.
You're just not that shocking, man. Besides, when Isabel told me your old man was Balak...
She told you?
She tells me everything. We're best friends. It's like we have some kind of deep, mysterious connection.
Yeah.
But when the film ends with some Red Hot Chili Peppers music playing, classic. The whole film is so underrated and solid and worthy to be remembered more. It was honestly a lot better than I remember it being, with the layered drama and awesome fight scenes. These kaijus have some really unique designs too. One more thing I have to ponder, how was Duncan even made? The film itself teases at this, which got a chuckle out of me.
Now that you've seen your father, you've probably got questions about how you were conceived.
I've got questions, but that is not one of them.
It couldn't have been more simple.
No, not listening. La la la.
But yeah, how was this sexual encounter possible? Did the dragon have a small dick, or did the MILF have a massive... Who knows? For those who don't know, I started this channel making mostly LEGO related content, not just simple reviews, but catalog look-throughs and even list videos.
Since September 2017. And so as we go along each floor, I'm going to go over each individual minifigure that we come across.
I don't really make that content anymore, but I still do collect Legos. In fact, I've actually been doing so for the past 12 years. One of these themes I briefly collected was called Hero Factory, initially released in the summer of 2010, and it went on until 2014. I feel it's both underrated and underappreciated, mainly due to being overshadowed by the other themes such as Bionicle. And don't hate me for this, but I never actually got into Bionicle. It seems alright and everything, but it ended right when I got into LEGO, and the reboot sucked ass. I first got into Hero Factory with the Savage Planet line in late 2011, and also got quite a few breakout sets. These are immensely nostalgic to me, plain and simple. Now some of you are probably saying to yourself, Rob, this isn't that obscure, I remember these greatly. Well, dear viewer, do you remember the TV show?
When vile, wretched villains strike, the most powerful force against evil is ready. Hero Factory. We build heroes.
Yes, they actually had a TV show for Hero Factory, which I vividly remember watching while growing up. It was produced and animated by Threshold Studios, who you will most likely know for being the monsters behind Food Fight. Yes, these things are connected. It surprisingly aired on Nickelodeon of all places. It's weird because other LEGO shows such as Ninjago, Chimo, and Nexonites aired on Cartoon Network. The first 4 episodes premiered with the mid-2010 wave and was called Rise of the Rookies. We followed the shithead rookie Furno and his friends stopping a new wave of villains which have some really interesting powers. One is named Explode and he shoots spikes from his back. Oh, and he's played by Jeff Bennett, a pretty prolific voice actor. Actually, the show featured a lot of good voice talent. Malcolm McDowell, the second time I mentioned him, plays Mr. Makiro, the leader of Hero Factory. Henry Winkler, who played Fonzie, voices Zib. John Schneider plays Stormer. Wait, that means there's a photo of a Hero Factory voice actor of Ronald Reagan. Finally is the greatest voice actor of them all, Mark Hamill. He plays 2 of the main villains. First is Von Nebula, the main villain of Rise of the Rookies. He brings such a frightening charm to this guy, solidifying the performance.
Well, if it isn't Von Nutcase.
You won't be so smug when I begin draining your hero cores.
So that's your game.
Pretty much he's a fallen hero who searches for deep cosmic power. But he isn't the smartest, being defeated by getting absorbed into his own staff. The sets use Bionicle pieces which are more fragile, but they switch this up starting next season. I also must mention the character Rotor, my personal favorite. He's this big and intimidating guy, but is pretty goofy. I love that, honestly.
Ooh, try again. Hey dear.
The next episode was called Ordeal of Fire and aired in April 2011. Pretty much, fire villains must be stopped. The main one being the Fire Lord, played by none other than D. Bradley Baker, the guy who plays all the clones in Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
What is evil? More than wanting something so much, you'll do anything, hurt anyone to get it.
And Tom Kenny is here too, voicing Evo in just this episode, along with Jetbug. He also goes on to play the voice of Rocka.
I should have taken the stairs. Whoa! Huh? Looks like Hero Factory forgot to pay its exterminator bill.
This is when I got into Hero Factory, Savage Planet. Pretty much, a planet is about to collapse because a madman named the Witch Doctor is stealing all the quasar, and he mind controls all the animals, including this giant badass scorpion. The Witch Doctor was a set to get back in the day. He was massive and the biggest character ever released for this theme. The few fans of the series usually claim this is the peak of quality for it. For me though, that honor would belong to Breakout, the latest release for the series. It premiered in April 2012. Von Nebula helps all the villains escape, to which the heroes must capture them again. This is a diversion so that one big villain can come back into their headquarters. That would be Black Phantom, the second character Mark Hamill voices. He gives off more of a Joker-like vibe, which I actually really like.
Oh, you don't have a chance. I'll be invincible and watch the Hero Factory crumble around you.
The sets were awesome too, and I'm actually close to collecting all of them. It has a unique range with the villains, and same with the heroes. But things went downhill from here. Then came Brain Attack, which is when things got generic. Just some alien brains taking over the minds of creatures and attacking. The sets were lame and it felt repetitive. And the big villain they were gearing up for ceased to be important. It premiered in April 2013, it's exactly where I lost interest. The final season was called Invasion from Below, which is just about fighting giant aliens from below the surface. This was released in January 2014, but only online. They even switched up the voice actors for lesser known worst ones.
Now that's what I call a chain reaction.
I set him up.
And I knock him down.
Look out, it's a splitter. Chrono, hang on.
The sets were more unique though, but got repetitive through the second wave. Then it just ended. Hero Factory was done, with multiple storylines that were finishing up. No real reason why besides slow decline after 2013. What are my final thoughts? Well, it's not actually a bad show, a solid 6 out of 10 for sure. The voice acting is actually really good for most characters, and the animation on a TV budget is quite pronounced. The villains are clearly the best part as you can tell. The sets are underappreciated as hell, like, sure you can say Old Bionicle is better, and you probably are right, but these new parts developed are pretty cool, and are still used to this day, and other themes. I have been buying them new for around $50 to $100 each via eBay, which I don't regret cause they look so damn cool on my shelf. My favorite is definitely the Witch Doctor, as he was also the first one I got back in August 2021. One last thing to note is that I've actually been working on a retrospective of the series for years now. I originally intended it to come out around 2019, but this seemed like the best way to do it.